Jameson Mitchell here, and in this video I'm continuing my series on Kathy's Grand Tableau, this time focusing on the cards that are surrounding the significator. So stay tuned. And here we are with the cards on the table, and this is Kathy's Grand Tableau, and the cards that I'm using for this series come from the Lenormand. And so if you're just joining me for this series, what it is that I've been looking at a tableau of a friend of mine. Her name is Kathy, and I've been doing it for two reasons. Number one is that Kathy was really excited about the first Grand Tableau series I did with a friend of mine named Howard, and she had seen that, and so she was excited about the prospect of having a Grand Tableau done for her, and she was also willing to share this with the viewers and subscribers of my YouTube channel, because she knew with that series I was posting it on my channel, so she was okay with that. And secondly, a number of my viewers and subscribers had asked me to take a look at, or how would I read the cards in situations regarding love, romance, and relationships. So it's a twofold thing, because Kathy's situation actually fit the request of the viewers and subscribers. And so if you're just joining me, like I said, this is Kathy's situation. Kathy found herself suddenly splitting up from her husband Dave, and her questions that she had when she wanted to have the tableau done was, number one, what did she need to know about the nature of her relationship to her husband Dave as a result of going through this challenging time? And number two, regardless of whether Dave remained in the picture or not, what would be the advice for her to move forward? So those were the two kinds of lenses that I was looking at this tableau with. And so in previous installments of this video series, I looked at my initial and overall impressions of the tableau, and then I looked at the first three cards, and then I looked at the four corners. And so in this installment, I'm going to be looking at the cards that are surrounding the significator. So the significator card in this particular case is going to be the lady card, which is right here, because Kathy is female. And when you're reading for a woman, you always want to look for where the lady card is placed. And we're going to be looking at all the cards that are around the significator. So some people call this particular spread, because we're only going to be looking at these 9 cards, it's sometimes called a box spread because it actually forms a box. Some people call it the 3x3 because there's 3 rows of 3 cards. I like to call it the portrait spread. And so going with the idea here is like the significator card, or Kathy in this particular case, is in the center, and so it's like a self-portrait, and then all the other cards around it are the frame around that self-portrait. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to readjust the camera so we can get a closer look at these 9 cards, because this is going to be the focus of the video. Okay, so what I've done is I've taken the liberty of removing all the cards that were around this particular box or square of 9, so this way we could just focus entirely on these few cards. And so when I read a portrait spread, what I do is I look at the cards that form the columns. And so we have 3 columns here, and so the first column here is on the left is the past, the middle column is the present, and then I read the last column as something that could happen in the future. And then what I do after that is I look at the cards that form the corners, and then I look at the diamond, so the 4 cards that form the diamond, and then I look at the cards that form the rows, and that kind of just is my entire process of going through, taking a closer look at what's going on around the significator. So you can also do this with any topic cards. So for instance, in a couple of videos from this video, I plan on doing the topic card in a similar way, and that would be the ring, because one of the questions was about Kathy's relationship to Dave, and since they're married, even though they're split right now, they're still married. I would be looking at the cards that are around the ring. So, but I'm jumping ahead here. So, in this particular portrait spread, we have in the first column, the column that represents the past, we have the key, we have the tree, and we have the bouquet. So the first thing that struck me is I tend to look at the first card in the portrait as what's the trigger, what's initiating the situation, or what's initiating the reason for having the reading being done. And so for Kathy, the key can represent, a discovery or a revelation. So I'm going with that. So also too, she's seeking answers, because the key can also be an answer or solution to a problem. So she's seeking answers and solutions too as well. But I'm going to, what's triggering the situation for her was a discovery or revelation. So I'm looking at that. And then that makes sense too, because with the bouquet card mirroring the key card, it would be like a surprising discovery or a surprising revelation, because the bouquet is a card that can represent surprises. So I looked at that, and this would be like, since this is in the past, this is something that she's already experienced. She had the surprise discovery or the surprise revelation that her husband wanted to leave. So there's that as a pair. And this is nice because it reinforces the situation. So I always look for ways to kind of reinforce or get a continuing messages about what the reason is for the person coming to have the reading done. So it's nice to see that that is there again. Now, tree being in the middle, tree is a card of healing. So if we look at the line with the key and the tree, we could say, the key here is to healing the past, because these cards are now in the past. So the key here, or the answer for her, would be healing the past. So I'm seeing that. And I would read the entire line, because I like to read the three cards as a line to kind of form a summation about something that's happened in the past. So we could look at this as the key to healing from a surprising discovery or revelation. So I'll say that again. So the key, which would be the key to healing, the tree, from a surprising discovery or revelation, which would be the combination of bouquet and key. So that's how I would read that. So now moving to the cards in the present, we have the scythe, we have the lady, and we have the stork. So the scythe and the lady as the first pair. Scythe, of course, represents something that's painful, something that is hurt, some kind of hurt. It could represent something sudden, unexpected, and in this particular case, scythe can represent a break or disconnection. So combining that with the lady, it would, this is just reinforcing the idea here that Kathy is in pain, Kathy's hurt from this sudden and unexpected split or, break or disconnection. These cards are saying that she was caught off guard, and as a result of that, she's also hurt. And also, too, with scythe being above Kathy, and as I said in previous videos, that this is what's on her mind because it's above her. So that is the way I would read that as a pair. It's just reinforcing the idea, yes, she's going through this, and yes, she is in pain, but it's also on her mind, which, of course, is natural given the nature of the circumstances. And then underneath the lady, we have stork. And so stork is a card of change. So, with it being below the lady, I sometimes read this as something that has to be overcome, because she has to take the steps, because she's actually standing on this card. So, taking a stand or having to overcome this change. And if you pair the mirroring cards, scythe and stork, it would be a sudden change or unexpected change. So I'm seeing that. And so I would read that as, basically she's in the process currently in her present about dealing with and having to overcome this sudden and unexpected change. So I'm seeing that as the present. And so then moving on to the future, we have bear, we have the gentleman or the man, and then the ways. And so now this is interesting. I know I've always made note of this, is that here we have the lady and the man. So this is Kathy and Dave, and they're in close proximity to each other. So this is something having to do with the future and pertaining to Dave in particular because his card is in the middle. So if we look at Bear and the Man card, this could be something that's describing Dave. So it could be like saying that the cards are saying like Dave is a powerful man, Dave is a strong man, because I look at Bear as strength and power. It could also be like Dave is trying to control the situation, because sometimes Bear in that sense could be like somebody who's controlling or somebody who is overbearing, you know, that kind of energy. It could also say too, because Bear can represent something heavy, so it's almost like it's putting the burden on Dave, if you will, for this situation in some regard. So, or it could be like, because Kathy is facing Dave, it could be like she's putting the burden on him in terms of this situation. And so that may be something that she might want to consider taking a look at, like why is she choosing to make him the heavy? Because that could be something that's going on there. And then with the Man and the Waves, this combo could suggest that Dave in the future is going to be faced with a choice or decision, because ways can represent choices, options, alternatives, you know, decisions. So it could be like he is going to be facing a decision in the future, or that Kathy is going to be affected by a choice that Dave makes in the future. You know, he made the choice to come to her and say he wanted to leave, but there may be more choices down the line that he's going to make that she may be affected by. So I'm seeing that as a possibility. So Man and Ways can also suggest like the Man is going to go off in a new direction. That could be a choice, like he's going to choose to move in some kind of new direction, because I look at this as going with the idea that this is literal. It could be like Dave is going to be on a path, you know, and that path is going to be moving him in a new direction. So there's that possibility with that. So we could read the total of the line as the possibility here, because this just jumped out at me, is like sometimes Bear can represent like being the boss. So it could be that Dave left in part so he could feel he has more control, or that he is his own boss in some way. So it could be that. So I'm reading this as, you know, in the future possibly like Dave could make another choice in which he gets to, you know, exert more control, stand in his personal power, or somehow be his own boss. So there could be something that. And it's very interesting if we take a look, like these cards closely are connected, because the Woman card is touching the Bear card, and she's also touching the Ways card. So again, this could be like something that's going to affect her, because all these cards are in close proximity. I mean, they're touching the Man, but they're also touching her. So there could be that. Now, the next thing I would do is I would look at the corner cards. So we have the Keys and the Ways that form one pair. And so I'm just looking at simply as, you know, discovering with the key, multiple options and choices. And it could also be too, like, you know, Kathy is seeking multiple answers and solutions, because now remember her question here is twofold. So she's seeking a couple of answers to her life experience at this time. So these two cards are reinforcing that. Then the other corner cards, we have Bear and we have Bouquet. And so I'm looking at this as, you know, if we go with the idea that Bouquet represents gifts, so the situation could be unfolding in part because Kathy is supposed to discover something, and it very well could be that she's going to discover that strength is a gift, meaning like the situation may be designed for her to tap into her own personal power and her own sense of strength. So I'm seeing that as a possibility. And then the next thing we could do is we could look at the diamond. So we have Scythe, Tree, Stork, and Man. So going with the first couple of cards, because what I do with the diamond is I kind of like go around the pairs and then kind of maybe sum it up. So Scythe and Tree, for me, represents hurt or pain that needs healing. Going with the idea that the tree represents healing. And then moving from Tree to Stork, we have healing that leads to a change. You know, and one of the things that I said was that Kathy would maybe need to seek out some multiple options for healing. I touched on that in a previous video. And so if she were to do that, then healing that could lead to a change. And then we have stork and man. So a couple of things here. We have that the man moves on, because the stork, if you go with the stork would come before the man. So it would be like he made the choice to move on. So I'm seeing that. And then if we go with man and scythe, a couple of things here. The scythe blade pointing down at Dave's card would suggest that Dave is actually being pointed out as the person who caused the split or the break when he told Kathy he was leaving. Now, we all know that in relationships, it's usually not the fault of just one party and one party alone. Each person plays his or her part in either the health of the relationship or the disconnection in the relationship, going with tree and scythe being in the portrait here. So it could just be saying, so this is Kathy's portrait, that she's looking at it as making Dave the heavy and then pointing the blame at him, when actually she would need to look at her part in that as well. So the card here is pointing to him as the cause for the break or the disconnection, but it could also be too that the man is disconnected. Maybe he's been disconnected from the relationship for some time now, so that is pointing to that. But it could also be too like the man split suddenly, like he just checked out, and he kind of did that. So if we look at the diamond and connecting all the cards, I would read it as healing from the pain, delivered by the man, because stork can also be about delivery. If you go with the idea here that, when I was younger, I used to believe, when I was real young, I used to believe that storks delivered babies, so that's where that comes from. So healing from the pain, delivered by the man, when he split suddenly and unexpectedly. So that's how I read the diamond. And again, the diamond is just another way of reinforcing the situation as Kathy has been experiencing it. So I'm seeing that as a possibility here. So the next thing we can do is we could read the rows. And so the first row we have key, scythe, and bear. And that could be the discovery of sudden strength, power, and resources. If we go with the idea here, like what's true in this situation here? What's the big reveal for Kathy? And so it would be, yes, she discovered the split, and she discovered that unexpectedly and suddenly. But as a result of that, I believe that the bear is about her tapping into her own strength and power. And it's almost like, how can she kind of gain control of her life in the midst of this sudden split, this sudden discovery, revelation kind of energy. And then we have tree, lady, and man. And so that could be healing for the woman, about the man leaving her behind because the man card is in front of the lady card. So that, again, that's just pretty obvious right there. And then the final three cards here, bouquet, stork, and ways, could be read as a surprise change in direction. It could also be a surprise change that leads to multiple decisions about the future. And so that's how I would read the entire portrait spread for Kathy. And so in the next video, I'm going to be taking another look at this portrait spread by extracting a line of 5 from it and going from there. And so for those of you who know how to read the line of 5, we'll be looking at the 5 cards from this 9-card spread. We'll be looking at those more closely. We'll be looking at the dynamics with the playing cards, and then what the essence is of that particular line of 5. So again, that will be in the next video. I want to thank you as I sign off for joining me in this particular session, looking at Kathy's portrait spread. I hope if you are reading the Lenormand for yourself, I hope that you found this helpful. I hope you found it informative. And again, if you're reading the cards from a love, relationship, romance perspective, I hope that has been helpful for you as well. So this is James Himm Mitchell. I'm signing off, and I look forward to sharing space with you in our next video, and until then, I'm hoping that you have a wonderful day and take care.